Kathleen from the Bay St. Louis Library, and welcome to Storytime. This week we're going to be talking about poetry because it is National Poetry Month in April, and we are celebrating. We've got some great stories for you about poems and poetry, and I'm going to show you how to say write in sign language because a lot of poems are written, and we've got some great poetry activities and crafts for you at the end of this. And we're going to wrap it up with Tootie Ta from Excel by 5. Are you ready for a story? Okay, I'm going to show you how to say write in sign language because a lot of poems are written, although some are not. So to say write, you hold up your non-dominant hand like it's a piece of paper, and you act like you're going to write with your other hand, like put your thumb and your index finger together, and you just look like you're writing. It can squiggle, it can go straight. That's how you say write in sign language. Okay, so some poetry rhymes, but not all of it. Some of it is serious and some of it is silly. So today we're going to start with a version of Mary Had a Little Lamb, which is an old Mother Goose rhyming poem. And then we're going to do another version of it. So for the classic Mother Goose version, it says, Mary had a little lamb. Its fleece was white as snow. And everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go. He followed her to school one day. That was against the rule. It made the children laugh and play to see a lamb at school. So that's a really old one. So now I'm going to read you a modern version that's a little bit silly. This says, Mary had a little jam. She spread it on a waffle. And if she hadn't eaten 10, she wouldn't feel so awful. All right, this darling book is called Daniel Finds a Poem. It is about Micah Archer. It's an Ezra Jack Keats Award winner for outstanding new authors and illustrators for children's books. This is about a young boy that discovers what a poem means. Daniel knows all the rocks, trees, and animals in the park. On Monday morning, Daniel sees something new on the park gate. A sign reads, Poetry in the Park, Sunday at 6 o'clock. What is poetry? Daniel says. He's looking at the sign. He looks up in surprise when he hears Spider say, To me, poetry is when morning dew glistens. On Tuesday, Daniel climbs the old oak tree. He sees Squirrel. Squirrel, do you know what poetry is? Look at those pretty colors. Poetry is when crisp leaves crunch, Squirrel tells him. On Wednesday, Daniel calls into the chipmunk's hole. Chipmunk, can you tell me what poetry is? Poetry? Poetry is a home with many windows in an old stone wall. So this is the chipmunk's home and what he's describing. On Thursday, Daniel makes a boat with a leaf for a sail and watches the wind carry it across the pond. He calls quietly to Frog. Excuse me, Frog, what is poetry? Poetry, says Frog, is a cool pool to dive into. On Friday, Daniel parts the cattails and finds Turtle. Hello, Turtle, I have a question. Do you know what poetry is? I think poetry is sun-warmed sand, Turtle says. On Saturday afternoon, Daniel finds Cricket in the shade of the slide. When the shadows are long, Cricket fills the air with music. Is this poetry to you, Cricket? Singing at twilight when the day is done? Indeed it is, Daniel. That night, moonlight fills Daniel's room. He hears a hoo. Leaning from his window, he calls to Owl. Owl, what is poetry? Oh, poetry. Poetry is bright stars in the branches, moonlight on the grass, and silent wings to take me wherever I go. Good night, dear Daniel, she whispers and flies off into the night. On Sunday, the sun wakes up Daniel. He is happy when he remembers it's Sunday. Today is poetry in the park, says Daniel, and I have a poem. Morning dew glistens, crisp leaves crunch. There's a home with many windows in the old stone wall. Cool pools to dive in, sun-warmed sand to lie in, singing at twilight when the day is done. Bright stars in the branches, moonlight on the grass, and silent wings to take me wherever I go. And all these people are listening to that beautiful poem. On the way home, Daniel stops to watch the sunset sky reflecting in the pond. That looks like poetry to me. To me too, says Dragonfly. So, as you can see, poems make you feel things. They can show emotions. It's a good way to express yourself. All right, this book is called Imagine. It's by Juan Felipe Herrera, illustrated by Lauren Castillo. And it is a beautiful book about somebody as a child imagining what they might be when they grow up. And the author grew up to be a poet. If I picked chamomile flowers as a child in the windy fields and whispered to their fuzzy faces, imagine. If I let tadpoles swim across my hands in the wavy creek, imagine. If I jumped up high into my papi's army truck and left our village of farm workers and waved adios to my amiguitos, imagine. If I let the stars at night paint my blanket with milky light, with shapes of hungry birds while I slept outside, imagine what you could do. If I helped Mama feed the hopping chickens and catch the crazy turkey in the front yard of our new village, imagine. If I walked through the evening forest at the top of a mountain with a silvery bucket to fetch water from the next town, imagine. If I moved to the winding city of tall, bending buildings and skipped to a new concrete school that I had never seen, imagine. If I opened my classroom's wooden door, not knowing how to read or speak in English, imagine. If I practiced spelling words in English by saying them in Spanish, like pencil for pencil, imagine. If I collected gooey and sticky ink pens because I loved how the ink flowed like tiny rivers across soft paper, imagine. If I grabbed a handful of words I had never heard and sprinkled them over a paragraph so I could write a magnificent story, imagine. If I stood up in a school far away from where I lived and sang for the first time in front of class, imagine. If I started to write a poem on a skinny paper pad after school as I walked on the wide sidewalk and then finished it when I got home, imagine. If I picked up my honey-colored guitar and called out my poem every day until it turned into a song, imagine. If I gathered many words and many more songs with both of my hands and let them fly over my mesa and turned them into a book of poems, imagine. If I stood up wearing a robe in front of my familia and many more on the high steps of the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C., and read out loud and signed my poetry book like this: Poet laureate of the United States of America. Imagine what you could do. This is a true story, a beautiful poem. All right, this book is by Ed Veer. It's called How to Be a Lion, and it is about Leonard the lion and his friend Marianne the duck. Leonard likes poetry, and they are best friends, but this book is about courage between friends and in this world. So let's see what this beautiful book has to say. How to Be a Lion. The world is full of ideas, big ones, small ones, good ones, bad ones. Some think this, others think that. Some say there's only one way to be a lion. They say lions are fierce. If they catch you, they will chomp you. Crunch, crunch, chomp. They say a lion can't be gentle. Well, they have not met Leonard. Leonard loves to walk by himself, feeling the sun warm his back and the grass under his paws. Some days Leonard walks to his thinking hill, and he is standing on his thinking hill. Sometimes he thinks important thoughts, sometimes he daydreams. Somewhere in between, he hums quietly and plays with words, putting them together this way and then that way, making them into poems. Some say, wait, lions are not gentle. Lions do not write poems. And if a lion met a duck, bad luck for that duck. Crunch, crunch, chomp. But if Leonard met a duck, what do you think would happen? But that's where they're meeting. She looks scared. Hello, said Leonard. I'm Leonard. Hello, said the duck. I'm Marianne. I'm writing a poem, said Leonard, but I'm stuck. Will you help me? You're in luck, said Marianne. I am a poetic duck. Together they played with Leonard's poem until the words came unstuck. Leonard and Marianne found they liked each other. Under the sun in the long grass, they lay together. They played. They went for walks and had long, meandering conversations, a mixture of quacks and quiet roars. At night, they watched for shooting stars and made wishes if they saw them. Do you think the universe has edges? Quacked Marianne. If it doesn't, said Leonard, will we fall out? Together they are happy. They wish for nothing more than this. Some say that a lion should have chomped a duck by now. I don't think so. One day a pack of fierce lions came prowling around. What's going on here? They growled. Why hasn't this duck been chomped? This duck is Marianne, said Leonard. She's my friend and nobody will chomp her. The fierce lions came closer. We heard you're gentle. We heard you make up poems. But not chomping a duck? You've gone too far. The fierce lions growled and roared. There's only one way to be a lion. Leonard, you must be fierce. Oh, Leonard looks very sad here. Must I be fierce, said Leonard. Must I change? They're wrong, quacked Marianne, and we will show them why. Leonard and Marianne went to their thinking hill. They thought hard. After a while, Leonard hummed a serious hum. An idea started to form. Marianne quacked a serious quack. The idea grew. They put their words together like this, like that, building them into a poem. That made sense of what they thought. Finally, they were ready. Leonard took a deep breath. I'll say this quietly. I needn't roar to be heard. I can be a friend to a bee or a bird. You said I must change. I must chomp Marianne, but chomping your friends is a terrible plan. Let nobody say just one way is true. There are so many ways that you can be you. If there must be a must, then this we must try. Why don't you be you and I will be I? Some say words can't change the world. Leonard says if they make you think, then maybe they can. Is there just one way to be a lion? I don't think so. Do you?
Flies in the buttermilk shoe, fly shoe. Flies in the buttermilk shoe, fly shoe. Flies in the buttermilk shoe, fly shoe. Skip to my...
So welcome to our poetry craft time. We've got some great little fun sheets for you to do and a fun little activity at the end. So I'm going to remind you first how to say write in sign language. Remember, you hold up your hand like a piece of paper. Make your other one like you're holding a crayon or a pencil, and you just write across the page. Pretend that you're writing. That's all you say for write. For our poetry worksheets, we've got tons of stuff for you today. A lot of it is pre-writing activities. This one has 4 different pages with it. This is for coming up with patterns like ABC patterns, where you try to find which pattern goes next. This one is a rhyming word match. We have a rhyming picture match. So a rhyme means it sounds the same. And this one is a digraph match. Might be a little more tricky, but for those who are learning to read, you try to figure out what the sound is and which one of these pictures that starts with. We've got this one where you find the rhyming words. It's also a coloring sheet. So this one, you trying to figure out what rhymes with one. You've got sun, tiger, or turtle. So you pick out the one that rhymes with the number, and then you color the ones that rhyme. This one is super easy. You'll need to get a parent maybe to help you with this. This one has 3 little poems, and you're supposed to highlight with a crayon the words that rhyme in these. And you can use a different colored crayon for the different words. So you just highlight the words at the end of the poems that rhyme. We've got a cute little springtime poem that has pictures, so you have to kind of guess what those pictures are, but it has the word underneath if you want. But this one is: the wind told the grass told the trees told the bushes, and the bushes told the bees. The bees told the robin, and the robin sang out clear, wake up, spring is here. So that's a cute little rhyming poem that has pictures for some of the rhyming words. We've got a finish the poem. It's super easy. So it has 4 different rhyming words here, and you try to figure out which one goes over there, and you can write them in the blanks, or you can draw lines to them to figure out which way to end those poems. For our little craft today, you're going to get a frog and a popsicle stick to make a stick puppet. And you've got a little poem that says, I have a little frog. You can get a parent to help read this to you if you need to. And this is my frog I made, and I used a little bit of crayon, gave him just a little bit of color to make him show up a little bit better. But I'm going to play with my frog while I read this poem. It says, I have a little frog. His name is Tiny Tim. I put him in the bathtub to see if he could swim. He drank up all the water. He gobbled all the soap. And when he tried to talk, he had a bubble in his throat. So that's your little craft for the day. Thank you for joining us for the Poetry Story Time. Don't forget to pick up your crafts and activities at your local Hancock County Library. Just give us a call first. We'll have one ready for you. And we're going to wrap this up with Excel by 5 and Tootie Ta. We'll see you next week.
A tootie-ta, a tootie-ta, a tootie-ta-ta.
elbows back,
elbows back,
feet apart.
feet apart.
A tootie-ta, a tootie-ta, a tootie-ta-ta.
A tootie-ta, a tootie-ta, a tootie-ta-ta.
Thumbs up,
Thumbs up,
elbows back,
elbows back,
feet apart,
feet apart,
knees together.
knees together.
A tootie-ta, a tootie-ta, a tootie-ta-ta.
A tootie-ta, a tootie-ta, a tootie-ta-ta.
Thumbs up,
Thumbs up,
elbows back,
elbows back,
feet apart,
feet apart,
knees together.
knees together,
Bottoms up.
bottoms up.
A tootie-ta, a tootie-ta, a tootie-ta-ta.
A tootie-ta, a tootie-ta, a tootie-ta-ta.
Thumbs up,
Thumbs up,
elbows back,
elbows back,
feet apart,
feet apart,
knees together.
knees together,
Bottoms up,
bottoms up,
tongue out.
tongue out.
A tootie-ta, a tootie-ta, a tootie-ta-ta.
A tootie-ta, a tootie-ta, a tootie-ta-ta.
Thumbs up,
Thumbs up,
elbows back,
elbows back,
feet apart,
feet apart,
knees together.
knees together,
Bottoms up,
bottoms up,
tongue out,
tongue out,
eyes shut.
eyes shut.
A tootie-ta, a tootie-ta, a tootie-ta-ta.
A tootie-ta, a tootie-ta, a tootie-ta-ta.
Thumbs up,
Thumbs up,
elbows back,
elbows back,
feet apart,
feet apart,
knees together.
knees together,
Bottoms up,
bottoms up,
tongue out,
tongue out,
eyes shut.
eyes shut,
Turn around.
turn around.
A tootie-ta, a tootie-ta, a tootie-ta-ta.